Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go live on S4 with Eric Cooper. Prepare to go to the edge.
3 years. Over 1,000 followers. 30,000 downloads in the archives. Welcome to S4.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to S4, the official radio broadcast of Forest Moon Paranormal, with host Eric Cooper and our panel of enlightened minds. Coming to you live from FMP headquarters located in the heart of Skagit Valley, Washington, at the base of the majestic North Cascade Mountains. We will take you through a journey of exploration as we examine every aspect of the metaphysical. From spirits, UFOs, Bigfoot, and conspiracies, to grounding, protection, astral travel, and everything in between, leaving you with a better understanding and comprehension of the world around you, and the entities that inhabit it.
Join us every Saturday night at Spreaker.com and locally on KSVU 90.1. Don't forget to check out our new webpage at www.s-4radio.com.
Now sit back, open your mind, get ready, because this is S4.
Good evening or morning, depending on where you are, and welcome to S4, the voice of Forest Moon Paranormal, coming to you live from the FMP headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains in Concrete, Washington. FMP is a highly active emergency response team for all aspects of the paranormal, from aggressive hauntings to alien interaction, Bigfoot and other cryptids, and everything in between that's terrifying. S4 is the voice where we discuss these things in detail. Not only can you find S4 right here on Spreaker, but for our local listeners, also on KSVU 90.1 FM from 10 to 12 Saturday nights with pre-recorded shows. And I can't believe it's almost August. So tonight, it's the 20th of July. We're combining two topics, essentially. What do we have going on in our mountains and forests? There's been lore of creatures so terrifying, some won't even speak their name. Could these be a part of why we have missing people? From Wendigos and Skinwalkers to Bigfoot, Skunk Ape, Mothman, and Chupacabra, and a plethora of others. We will dig. Then we will look at the missing people patterns from Missing 401 of David Paulides' research and discuss which of these could be the culprit. I've never thought it was only, one cause of all these missing people, but a combination of issues, from portals to government abduction, aliens, and something else. So let's take a look at the something else. Tonight with us, we have Colweg Leitner. He's going to be on later. Our technical analyst. Chris and Brent Dodge from the FMP Extended Care and Astral teams. Don Davidson, our California consultant. R. Keith Andrews, our alien race specialist. Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio. Jamie Justice, one of our upriver consultants from living right here next door to FMP headquarters. And Joe Algier, our favorite geologist and collector of mountain creatures in his own backyard and connoisseur of pointy sticks. So how are we doing tonight, guys?
Not bad.
Pretty good.
Hi, I'm Dave.
And yes, we have a full house tonight. But with the topics we're talking about, we need a full house.
Yeah, the question isn't do you have a full house, it's do we have a full deck?
Of
No,
course we
none
have
of
a
you
full
have a
deck.
full deck.
So the thing is, everybody talks about Bigfoot. Everybody talks about Dogman. Not many talk about Skinwalker, Wendigo, the Rake. And I'm going to be honest, I don't hold a lot of credence in the Rake because the Rake comes from the likes of some of these creepypasta websites, Slenderman, things of that nature. But the more thought people put into these kinds of creatures, the more realistic they become, in the literal sense. So these are things you just, as investigators, you kind of look at with a fine-tooth comb, and you don't hold your breath, but you want to know about them. So that's where I'm at. Only with the Rake, because there's enough Native American lore or First Nations lore on the Wendigo. You got Skinwalker Ranch in Utah that's got a whole lot of lore with it. But in all reality, the Skinwalker is known across the United States, but mostly in the East Coast. But any one of these creatures can travel. Wouldn't you agree, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, they are, and by the way, thank you for having me on and joining your panel again tonight. It's always a lot of fun to spend a Saturday night with you. I would agree that there is a lot of weird information going on right now regarding skinwalkers, regarding monsters, transformation, shapeshifters. The one thing that I think that we have done to the detriment of the paranormal is we have not taken the seriousness of the First Nations stories as credible as we probably should. They're more about legends. They're more about passing stories down through generations, whereas the majority of us are all thinking about little things like, science and how it incurs into today's realm and whether or not we can believe it. They have been around for generations with these stories, and I can tell you right now, some of the stories I have heard about Skinwalker on Space Out Radio, I sure as heck would never want to run into one.
No. And and it's those tribes, those cultures that have enough fear in some of these creatures, they won't say the name. They won't say the name Wendigo. Not on the reservation. I'm not on the reservation, so I'm not worried about saying the name.
Yeah. My nephew Nathan, he's terrified of the skinwalkers.
and rightfully so. And I guess here's where I think they're cool. But here's the difference. So the Skinwalker, and I'm not going to get too deep into it right now because we'll get a lot deeper into it here in a little bit, but I'm a witch. And the Skinwalker is actually a witch. Now, albeit a wicked witch or a very, very malevolent witch, but any witch can be malevolent if they need to be.
Yes.
And the difference between myself and the witch of a Skinwalker is to become a Skinwalker, they must kill their sibling. That's part of the ritual.
I'm up to that.
That's part of the ritual to become a Skinwalker. And again, I don't want to dig too deep just yet because we'll get to that. But I like culture. And I had to write about culture in school here this week, as a matter of fact, and the biases that people see in other cultures. But I've been in the Middle East. I've seen that culture firsthand. I've been in Europe. I've seen that culture firsthand. I like culture. I like learning about culture because every culture's got their own stories, their own creatures. So what we talk about here in the United States may be something similar, but call a different name and say Australia. And we'll talk about a couple. If we have time, we will get to Australia. We have a lot of Australian listeners, so we will get to a couple of Australian creatures potentially if we have time. So how's Upriver been doing, Jamie?
Well, it's not been too bad. I wanted to bring something up here at the beginning of the show. I was on the internet and I was just meandering through and looking to see what was happening, and I ran across another site of a research team, and I started looking at the stuff on there, and I read this story, and I was reading all about how these people called this team in, and there was these strange occurrences and so on and so forth. And I looked at it was my family, and that didn't happen. One of them was even dead at the time that this report was made. And that really got me thinking, you guys, when you do your investigations, you do the aftercare, you go all the way through, and you do things the right way. If I would have been in crisis at that point in time, and I would have seen these people, they wanted to help and everything, God only knows where the heck I'd be, depending on them to be honest and stuff. And I was thinking that maybe you could put something out there, like almost like a kind of a guide or something to say, hey, if this team doesn't tell you this or show you that or something, you might want to look onward or something and give people kind of like a little bit of safety or a little bit of help or something, so they aren't getting in, with some people that are just not the right people. I mean, because that was a blatant lie that I ran across, and I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it just, it was out there. And if I really needed help, I sure wouldn't have wanted to have to depend on them.
So there's good teams and there's bad teams. There's 3,800, and I'm sure the number's tripled by now, paranormal, quote-unquote, investigative teams listed in the United States alone. And Dave's probably got a more accurate number. I don't know. Dave doesn't look into paranormal investigative teams too often. But that's the last number I saw, and that was on paranormalsociety.com. Now, and I don't like beating this topic up a whole lot because we beat it up quite often. But Paranormal TV did two things. It did great in making people aware of the paranormal and the things that are out there, and it did the disservice of bringing every Tom, Dick, and Harry wanting to the thrill, basically, of being a Ghostbuster. Every team, whatever their motivation is, has a purpose. Some of them, they just want to gather evidence. They want to collect evidence. That's all they do. They're not there for the client. They're not there to remove the problem or even have resolution of the problem. They're there only to get that picture, get that EVP, get some quote-unquote scientific data based on an EMF meter, which isn't scientific data, but that's a whole other topic. And they leave. And I know of a few cases that we've done where the clients actually had a team that came in and discovered that the paranormal really does exist, got terrified, screamed, and ran out of the house. So, why do you do this? If you're going to scream and run out of the house? Because there really are spirits. Oh my gosh. So, in that regard, they've just done two things to the client. They've validated their fear, and they've probably pissed off whatever may have been there. And that's when we usually get called in, is to calm the client down, tell them, yes, we can help, and go in and clear it. So what can you look for? So we've had this discussion. Are you still with me, Dave?
Oh, yeah, I'm right here.
So we've had this discussion that we need something like an Angie's List for the paranormal.
Yes, absolutely.
An Angie's List where clients can go on and say, I called in this team, such and such. They did awesome. They removed it. My home's been quiet. I call in this team, such and such, and oh my God, they came in, they stole stuff, they broke stuff, yada, yada, yada. Or This team ran out screaming, terrified, and I haven't heard from them since. You know, that's what's needed. Are you still with us,
Good
Joe?
idea.
Yeah, I'm listening. As far as that Angie List idea goes, it's interesting, but I'm sure that if there was a team out there that were not good people, like you said, the ones that run away screaming, if you have your Angie List for ghosts or Ghost Yelp, I'm sure that those teams would have people put up glowing reviews of their group, even though, you know, they're horrible.
Yeah.
So even if you read it online that they're good, that's always suspect.
And I agree.
Well,
That's what.
everything on the net is suspect. You know, it just gives you a place to start.
Yeah.
It does. The problem is money. Because starting something like an Angie's List, and I know the one Angie, I don't know anything in the history of the actual Angie's List, but it took a lot of money for her to even start that program. And then you have, once you get that program going, then you have the problem of advertising it, telling everybody, hey, here's an Angie's List for Ghostbusters or Bigfoot hunters, or, you know, because you're not going to get all three fields in one Angie's List. It just won't work because the Bigfooters don't think aliens exist. The alien hunters don't believe in spirits. And you don't get the crossover. I can, you know, out of 10 teams you talk to, I bet about 3 of them even look at UFOs. That's just a sad reality. We cover it all because frankly, I've seen it all. I've seen aliens. I've seen UFOs. I've heard Bigfoot knocks. I've dealt with more spirits than I can count, which is why I've always believed they're all paranormal.
Well, let's face it, if they're not normal, they're paranormal.
Say again?
That makes it depend what you call the paranormal realm, the normal realm for me.
Well, yeah. I agree. But you go on some of these just general Facebook paranormal groups, and so I put out promos for FMP. And, you know, when I first started, I don't know how many years ago it was now, I would put it in a UFO group, for example, and they would say, why are you here? I see spirits mentioned, and this is a UFO group. I'm like, well, because we deal with UFOs as well. Oh, okay. And, you know, and that's the same across the board. Whether they were cryptozoologists, UFO hunters, or just Ghostbusters. So what can people look for? One, if they blatantly say, we will charge you money, that's the first turn away, because there's plenty of us out here that do it for free. We do take donations, but we don't ask for donations because, to me, again, the first time you tell a client that, oh, we take donations, what are they hearing? They're hearing, oh, you expect something. So I don't even say anything. When people ask how much we charge, I say we do it for free. Now, if they offer donation on site, then yes, we will tell them we only take donations if we do take anything. Just to make that.
So if they
say again?
If they're going to charge you, if they're going to charge you, for instance, you know, like you said, you know, there's plenty to do it for free. But say, you know, I needed to have something exercised out of my neighbor or my mom or something, and I had to call for help, and they said, well, we're going to charge like $500. What kind of guarantee would you ask for? How would you know if, you know, that was like not the right thing for them to be charging, kind of thing?
Well, that's my point. You don't need to have an exorcism and charge money.
Right. So you can do it with donations, and if they're charged.
So the minute they say we charge such and such, you hang up the phone or you walk away and you find another team.
All right. That's what I was looking for. Okay.
Yeah.
If a team were going to charge money, that's a business transaction. So if the team comes in, they get paid, they leave, could the people sue them in court for not getting rid of whatever the problem was if it's continuing to go on?
If you had a contract. How many teams do a contract? We don't. But we don't charge money.
No, I'm talking about
either.
the people that charge money.
Right, exactly. And that's why that's why I have a hard time with anyone that charges money for this field. Because, so we go in, we clear your house. We remove 5 spirits, 3 malevolent entities, that's exaggeration. But we clear your house. We educate you. We teach you how to protect yourself, because that's what the extended care team does. How can I guarantee you that something else won't come back? I can't. That's an incomplete service. And if I'm going to pay somebody for a service, I expect a complete service.
But you guys offer aftercare and stuff, and you check in on your clients. So, I mean, that's something to look forward to, when you're looking for a team as well, right?
Yeah, so, Chris.
Yes.
So we do a, 1 week, 2 week check?
It's a 1 day, 1 week, and then 2 weeks. And if they're fine, then I can close that case. But, every single client is instructed that if you need anything or questions, you get back in touch with us. We're always there. So we have an open line of communication after every single case.
Exactly. And, again, so just because they're fine after 2 weeks, for example, we just had a case that we did, 10 years ago? And now she's having issues 10 years later with a completely different situation. So we went back in, we handle it. But just because they're fine after that 2 week check does not mean that case is closed. It's closed, but they have an open door policy with us at any time. If 50 years later, hopefully Anthony and Cheyenne will have picked up by then, because I'll be long gone. But it doesn't really matter.
At this point, you can come back and help.
I can come back through an EVP. There we go.
Well, we didn't, Eric. We didn't just go in there and do the job. We brought information for them too, a protection packet. I took a sage stick. I took protection stones, and it was all given to the client. So they were very appreciative, and that's just how Eric runs the team. We go in prepared.
You have to.
Nice.
And the other thing, you won't. Always ask a team that's coming in, what do you do to protect yourself? That's something. I'd say 2 teams out of 10 even believe in protection. Oh, I've got my cross on, so I can't get attacked. Yes.
Oh, boy.
You said it worked.
So yeah, no, we do intense protection. Again, having Astral, we can actually have our Astral team scan us as we're coming out to make sure we don't have attachments, things of that nature.
Scan you?
Yeah.
You mean like they can run something over you and see if you have entity or something on you?
Yep.
No, it's energy work. He looks at the energy.
Yeah, not an actual device, not electronics, but they actually can astrally observe us and make sure we don't have an attachment.
Nice. Okay.
And I'm going to add, that's what we'll be doing as well when we do our Ghost Walk at the Paracon. We will be teaching protection before anyone goes on the Ghost Walk at Paracon. And that is a prerequisite before any of the public goes on the Ghost Walk. And
I am so excited.
You can't,
and they're all going to get a protection stone. I've got that organized, Joe.
You can't go on the Ghost Walk, Jamie. You're going to be working. Oh. So let's see. I'm still thinking here. Always ask a team if they believe in protecting themselves. And if they say no, then you ask why not.
But you also ask, what do you protect with? That makes a big difference.
It does.
Yep.
So for protection, we use black tourmaline. That is a very strong stone. It's used for repelling negativity as well as absorbing negativity. It's not a fix-all. Just because we walk into a location with our black tourmaline does not mean we cannot get attachments. Does not mean we cannot get attacked. Our headquarters have been attacked before, and we have strong shields. So, yeah, we can be attacked, and we are attacked at times. We have enemies, not just human enemies. We have a lot of enemies based on what we do. So any one of our team members is susceptible to an attack. That's just, a fact of what we do.
So basically, as long as if you should be able to talk to this team that you're looking into and ask them all the questions that you need to until you feel comfortable and you know exactly what's happening. And if they can't offer that, you move on.
Exactly, because there's paranormal teams are a dime a dozen. Wouldn't you agree, Dave?
Absolutely, and there's a lot of good ones out there, and there's a lot of good people. But part of the issue that I notice with paranormal teams, and I've said this many a times over the years on Spaced Out Radio, is they are very aloof. They are very non-committal. They are very arrogant, claiming the whole science aspect when they haven't done anything scientific since high school. They talk a big game, and this is what I find very destructive. I put it in a recent blog post recently. Like when you were dealing, I don't care if anybody wants to investigate the paranormal. Hey, everyone has a curiosity. Whether you do a museum tour or whether you're going out with your friends to a cemetery or a haunted building. But where I have a big issue is with these people who are taking on residential or places of work where people are actually around. If you don't have a proper solution set up for how to clear those spirits, people already are calling you because they know their place is haunted. Confirming or denying means nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. Because just because you show up to a paranormal place that somebody says it's haunted and you're not getting any evidence or anything that you feel is concrete doesn't mean it's haunted. My museum tour, we have times where we'll be sending groups in, 3 groups into a building at different times. 2 of the groups will get action and 1 will be dead. There will be nothing. You cannot predict the paranormal when it is going to happen. And it's ignorant of a lot of these teams who claim to know everything when they sit there and they say, well, this is why you're not getting any activity, or no, this place is not haunted. BS. You don't know because you're not there. You don't know what the triggers are. Your 2 hours on an investigation isn't going to prove or disprove anything. You have to spend multiple days. An investigation doesn't take an hour or 2 hours or even 3 or 4. It can take days to try and figure out everything that is there.
That's one reason I say in astral, I kind of say, well, there's nothing there at the time when I looked, or anything like that. They can go in and, well, I mean, the spirits can be there, and all of a sudden they're not. You never know.
Yeah, even in astral, we won't always pick it up on the first go, because if we're not going in cloaked, because the team can go in cloaked, they do sometimes. Depends on the case, depends on the circumstance. But if they go in cloaked, their energy is still somewhat detectable. So then if you have a portal, for example, a spirit could jump into the portal and be gone. You won't always pick up the portal the first time. Generally speaking, you will, but not always. So, I mean, one case we did recently, it took a couple times to finally catch the spirit, communicate with them, and pass them over. But some cases of Fae as well. Some Fae can be detected from astral. It all depends. So it takes a few times. We had a case where astral couldn't pick up what was going on, so we went boots on ground because it was local enough to get to. And once they're boots on ground, yep, okay, we have a Fae issue. So, you know, this is an unpredictable field. So for any team to go in there and say, oh, this, and this, and this, and oh, there was nothing on EMF, so it's not haunted. Yeah, try again.
I think you could also, a question you could ask is how many team members would come to your place, your location, and what are their jobs? That's something that any team should be able to answer. That would be the good question. Yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, what? Everybody self-titles everything. So what exactly do you do? I mean, when you go into paranormal teams and they're telling you that their demonologist is 22 years old, but he's been a demonologist for the last 5-6 years, you know it's BS. You know, but you and I know it's crap, but the rest of the people out there, the people who are seeking that help, they don't know the difference. They don't know.
Right.
You know?
Here's my problem. The minute you say you're a demonologist, I turn off. Because
you do.
You
do. But Eric, here's the biggest issue. It's the same thing in ufology. Okay? Nobody knows. If you take the ufology case, okay, the To the Stars Academy is now coming out with an app that people are going to be able to download, where if they have a UFO sighting, they can report it right on the app, and it goes straight to TTSA headquarters and research. Okay? People who are looking for answers, who say, oh, I know Tom DeLonge. Yeah, I'm going to report it there. Absolutely. You know, I love Tom's music, so he's into the UFO thing. I'll give him my story. Maybe he'll even call me. Right? No, but this is what the way people think. Okay? They're not looking at the potential sinister ways of TTSA. I'm not saying they're sinister, but they have a few questionable codes of conduct that they have created. Okay? Same thing with ghost hunting. When you have people out there who have a paranormal experience and they hit Google and somebody has used their keywords properly on their website, all right, to come up and say Seattle, Washington, you know, how many ghost teams come up there? They don't know who Ross Allison is with A Ghost. They don't know who Eric Cooper is with Forest Moon Paranormal. What they're looking for is the team closest to them. They find them on Google or maybe Facebook, and then they say, hey, guys, I'm having some issues. They get a lot of good answers that makes them feel comfortable, and that's where the BS starts. The public who is calling these teams for help has absolutely no clue what a good paranormal investigator is, what a bad paranormal investigator is. Is it because of a lack of education? Absolutely. There is no education in this field. So we could sit here and blame the paranormal teams, but is it really their fault for selling a bunch of BS to people who don't know any better?
Yes, I can say that because I can say that. But
that just happened.
Well, and that's where education comes from. That's why we have shows like Spaced Out Radio. That's why we have shows like S4. That's why we have a Paracon. Public education. That's the public education side of FMP. And, you know, there needs to be more real education of what to look for.
Yeah, because that's exactly what happened to me here just the other day. That's why I was asking you about trying to make sure you could get a reputable person, because I was believing it.
Right.
See,
Well, but here's the thing. What's a reputable person? You guys know. I know because we're involved with the scene. But Joe and Jane Smith, who all of a sudden see their child being attacked, never believed in the paranormal before, are now seeing their child waking up with scratches and bruises in their brand new home that's 50 years old, 60 years old. They don't know what to do. That's the issue that we're getting at. We can bitch and complain about all of the paranormal teams that are out there that are not doing the job properly or with any sort of effectiveness. But in the end, it's the education part that as long as somebody is putting good keywords on their website for SEOs on Google, that's what's going to make sure that these people get those hits and get those investigations. The public doesn't know. They don't know what provoking is. They don't know what riling up spirits is. They don't know the proper procedures. And frankly, the mainstream people don't care. They don't until that situation is needed. All right? Until that happens. And their first choice isn't Forest Moon Paranormal. It's none of the good teams. It's Google. It's Google that they're searching for. Or maybe a secondary, Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Washington Paranormal Societies. There's 73 groups, and we're like the 10th or 12th one down.
Well, it's so the Washington State section, I went through every group that's on there just like 3 days ago, and about 80% of them are dead. You go to the website, there's no website. You go to the Facebook, there's no Facebook, and it's alphabetized. That's why we're the 10th one down.
Yeah.
There's only 5. There's only 5 groups out of the 73 that I know of that are actually active.
Well, I can
change your name to AAA Paranormal.
But yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that because I just went through that whole listing like 3 days ago, just out of curiosity. I do it once in a while just to see if there's any new groups in there, and there weren't. So, moving along, did we answer the question, Jamie?
Yeah, actually you did, and I think out of all the information, I think just knowing that you should be able to talk to the team until you're completely satisfied and you're comfortable with their answers, or you move on. I think that's the best, piece of advice with that one right there.
Well, the last thing to say is the minute they catch an attitude because you're questioning them, that's a red flag right there, right? Because you're questioning their ego. And the minute you get an attitude because you're asking them about their team, that's when you walk away.
Right. Because, like I said, I won't even mention the name or anything, but it was one of the sites that should have been most reputable on there and very active, and they had everything going for them and stuff, and they were a total fraud. So you got to be careful out there.
Yep. Completely agree. And yeah. I'll leave it. I'll leave it alone.
I won't.
Oh,
you know I won't.
So the first one we're going to talk about tonight, and I know your nephew's going to love it if he's listening tonight, is the Wendigo.
He's supposed to be.
So, who knows about the Wendigo? It was a great supernatural episode, by the way. It was relatively accurate. If you've seen, I believe it was season 1, episode 1, actually, where they actually dealt with a Wendigo.
I think so.
And so I'm going to read a quote from Basil Johnston, an Ojibwe, I think I'm saying that right, Ojibwe teacher and scholar from Ontario, Canada. And he says, the Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation, its desiccated skin pulled tautly over its bones, with its bones pushing out against its skin. its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton, recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody. Its body was unclean and suffering from separations of the flesh, giving off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. So that's straight from First Nations lore. So the Wendigo is 15 foot tall on some depictions. They have glowing eyes. It's historically associated with cannibalism, murder, insatiable greed, and the cultural taboos against such behaviors. It's known by the names Wendigo, Wittigo, Wittico, and Wheatigo. And each of them translates to the evil spirit that devours mankind. So what do you know about the Wendigo, Keith?
Well, from everything I've gathered around it, it started off, and we're talking centuries back, as a corporeal entity.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the amount of negativity around it, it took on more of an ethereal approach. The more negative energy it pulled into itself, and from if you will, societal evil, the less dense it became. Now it's got the capacity to actually physically manifest. It almost lives half in the astral realm, which is why it's hard to track, because it physically manifests itself when it wants to.
When and where, so it can appear behind you if it wanted to.
Yeah.
Which I believe, if you so any kind of magical practice, and even with demonology, names are power. Say again? Okay, I thought somebody said something.
I heard something too, but it ain't consolation.
It was an EVP.
That is 3.
So yeah, names give you power over whatever you have the name of. So with a Wendigo, many of the tribes are terrified to even say that name because that's what calls it. So the tribes that this is part of their lore are the Algonquian Ojibwe, the Eastern Cree, the Saulteaux. I think I'm saying that right. Does that sound right, Dave? Keith?
You got the Cree, you got the Ojibwe, you have the... What was the other one?
Who the third one was.
The Saulteaux?
Saulteaux, yeah.
Saulteaux, there you go. The West Main Swampy Cree, the Naskapi, and the Innu peoples, who have described them as giants, many times larger than human beings. And again, 15 foot by some accounts. They are associated with winter, the north, coldness, famine, and starvation. So an Algonquian legend describes them as a giant with a heart of ice. Sometimes it's thought to be entirely made of ice. Its body is skeletal and deformed with missing lips and toes. Now, think about it. Even humans, if they're in the cold and they get frostbite, they have missing, well, maybe not missing lips, but they can easily have missing toes and fingers. I like looking at these legends and lore on a common, mundane aspect as well. So the Ojibwa describe it as it was a large creature as tall as a tree, with a lipless mouth and jagged teeth. Its breath was a strange hiss. Its footprints full of blood, and it ate any man, woman, or child who ventured into its territory. And those were the lucky ones. Sometimes the Wendigo chose to possess a person instead, and then the luckless individual became a Wendigo himself, hunting down those he had once loved and feasting upon their flesh. Very descriptive. Have you noticed that? A lot of the First Nations lore is always descriptive, isn't it?
Well, it does leave a lot to the imagination, that's for certain.
Right? So, according to some legends, the Wendigo is created whenever a human resorts to cannibalism to survive. So in the past, it occurred more often when Indians and settlers found themselves stranded in the bitter snow and ice of the North Woods. Sometimes stranded for days, any survivors might have felt compelled to cannibalize the dead in order to survive. Other versions of the legend went as far as extreme greed. If they were greedy, that also pulled in the Wendigo. Do you have anything to add, Dave?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Wendigo is more an eastern central Canada type of cryptid that comes from the First Nations that is supposed to be extremely violent. The hard part is you find very, very few, an extreme few amounts of sightings on an annual basis of this creature. Most of the sightings that we hear were from yesteryear, but I have a feeling I know why, and that is because, up here in Canada, there's not a big trust between the Indigenous people and the mainstream folk that are out there after years of ridicule, whether it's about Bigfoot, whether it's about spirits, whether it's about Wendigo or anything. And so I'm sure these are happening a little bit more than what we know. We're just not getting the stories out to the public.
Exactly. And, that's the same way here in the United States, as most of the tribes won't talk to the white man. That's just a fact. The trust isn't there. Even when we're dealing with native spirits, they would much rather have the medicine man come in and deal with them than, say, Forest Moon Paranormal, which is why it's great to have Cole on the team, because he does know some of the lore, and he is First Nations, so they will work with him. So another depiction with the Wendigo is they're said to have glowing eyes, long yellow fangs, terrible claws, and overly long tongues. Sometimes they're described as sallow yellowish skin, and other times depicted to be covered with matted hair. This is where it's going to get interesting, because later on in the show, we're going to go into some of the missing 401 signs and symptoms, basically. And one of the depictions in both with the Wendigo and with the missing 401 signs is the Wendigo can control the weather through the use of dark magic. Now, if you're familiar with David Paulides' work, many times when these people, and we're going to get a lot more into detail probably in the third hour with the missing people, but oftentimes with the missing 411 people that come up missing, the weather turns bad immediately after they turn missing. So right there is a similarity with the Wendigo and missing 411. I found that one interesting. The other thing is this creature is said to have a number of skills and powers, including stealth, which is also needed with Paulides' work, because these people are missing. We're talking, you have a row of people walking up a mountain, and you're talking to your friend, and all of a sudden your friend's missing. There's no cougar marks. There's no blood. There's no drag marks. There's nothing. These people are just missing. And that happened in many of these cases. So stealth, with whatever the case is a necessity.
Yeah, but when you can phase in and out of corporeal matter, getting somebody yanked out of the area is easy.
Exactly. Which is why I do think portals or portals or wormholes are a possible. Again, I don't think with missing 411, I don't think it's any one thing, and I don't think it's Bigfoot.
Yeah, because Bigfoot would have no reason to take the wreckage with him.
No, and again, you're going to have drag marks, or you're going to have footprints. things of that nature.
Yeah, especially given the number of people that disappeared.
So Cole is in the chat room. Cole, give me a yes or no if you're ready to be called in, and I'll get you pulled in. Actually, we have 10 more minutes to the top of the hour, and then I'll pull him in. Because I know he's biting at the bit, even though he's been driving all day.
I'm telling you, grab a whip, stop him from biting, but
So
come join us, eh?
Say again? No, he had a job down in Seattle he had to do. So now he's going to be stuck up for another 2 hours talking on the radio. So Wendigos, I said
he should be so lucky.
Say again? Oh, he loves it.
I said he should be so lucky.
Right? He loves to hear. So Wendigos are said to be cursed to wander the land, eternally seeking to fulfill their voracious appetite for human flesh, and if there's nothing left to eat, it starves to death. Now, here's an interesting tidbit, too. So, in the psychiatric field, they made the Wendigo psychosis. Have you guys heard of that one?
No, I actually just read about it.
So the legend with Wendigo psychosis, it's parallel, but at the same time, is it a Wendigo? So the legend of Wendigo psychosis, it's a syndrome that creates an intense craving for human flesh and a fear of becoming a cannibal. Ironically, the psychosis is said to occur within people living around the Great Lakes of Canada and the United States. Wendigo psychosis usually develops in the winter in individuals who are isolated by heavy snow for long periods. The initial symptoms are poor appetite, nausea, and vomiting. The individual develops a delusion of being transformed into a Wendigo monster. People who have Wendigo psychosis increasingly see others around them as being edible. Oh, that's kind of creepy, huh?
Well, it does add a whole new dimension to your lifestyle.
Right? So, a 1661, and again, Dave, you're absolutely right. Most of the accounts with Wendigos are documented, the 1600s, the 1700s, the 1800s. You don't hear about them recently, and I think you nailed it on the head, because it's tribal, and the tribes don't talk about it. That's why you don't hear about it. So, in 1661, Jesuit relations documents stated, "What caused us great concern was the intelligence that met us upon entering the lake, namely, that the men deputed by our conductor for the purpose of summoning the nations to the North Sea, and assigning them a rendezvous, where they were to await our coming, had met their death the previous winter in a very strange manner. Those poor men, according to the report given us, were seized with an ailment unknown to us, but not very unusual among the people we were seeking. They were afflicted with neither lunacy, hypochondria, nor frenzy, but have a combination of all these species of disease which affects their imaginations and causes them a more than canine hunger. This makes them so ravenous for human flesh that they pounce upon women, children, and even upon men, like veritable werewolves, and devour them voraciously, without being able to appease or glut their appetite, ever seeking fresh prey, and the more greedily the more they eat. This ailment attacked our deputies, and as death is the sole remedy among those simple people for checking such acts of murder, they were slain in order to stay the course of their madness." Now, I like the way they talked back in the 1600s, don't you?
Well, I think there was a little bit more openness to it, Eric, because as the settlers came over from England before you guys, decided to get treasonous, there was a lot of times before the murdering of the First Nations and the and the horrific horror stories about that, when people first started coming over, they were trying to make friends. They were trying to come in peace and make trading goods. And that's where, when the friendships were made, these stories of the monsters were told. Mm-hmm. So when the settlers would go into different areas, they would have been forewarned by First Nations people in regarding that. This is before all of the, almost trying to exterminate them that happened in both the United States and Canada at that time. So it is something where there was a lot of good communication back then, when the stories were easier to be believed because that communication was open.
I found it interesting too how openly they said werewolves. They compared the voracious hunger of these with a Wendigo disease, as they call it, or a Wendigo psychosis. They called it, a psychiatric condition rather than calling them an entity, basically. But they compared them to werewolves. I actually thought that was kind of cool. So another documented case in 1878 was from a Plains Cree trapper from Alberta named Swift Runner. So Swift Runner actually worked with the Hudson's Bay Company, which anyone that knows history and anyone that's taken history knows a little bit about the Hudson's Bay Company. He was married and the father of 6 children. He was a guide for the Northwest Mounted Police. And during this winter of 1878-79, his family was starving. So he killed his family. He could have gone to get emergency food from the Hudson's Bay Company's post, which was 25 miles away. But instead, he killed his family. Let's see.
It's not very Christian.
Right?
But it wasn't.
But, and these are all well-documented historical cases. So do we have any more? So the frequency of the Wendigo psychosis decreased sharply in the 20th century as the Native Americans came into greater and greater contact with Western ideology. Does that mean it went away? No, it doesn't. It just means they stopped talking about it.
It's quite simple. The Wendigos were created by people traveling from point A to point B in the winter in their Conestoga wagons or by horse. They would get snowed in and they end up eating all their friends. They become a Wendigo. These days, people are driving cars, and that just doesn't happen. So there's less chance for these things to be created.
And that's
just
a good point. That's a really good point. I still think they're out there. I still think people are disappearing by them. I just, again, don't think we're hearing about it.
There is a great movie on the Wendigo called Ravenous.
I'll have to look that one up.
Set in the 1800s, coming over the Sierra Nevada, so people get trapped. There's cannibalism, all kinds of good stuff.
And everybody tell Cole to slow down, because I know Cole's probably going really fast, trying to get home so he can be on the show, because we're going to talk about skinwalkers next. So, any more about the Wendigo? Did we miss anything? Jamie, I don't see your nephew in the chat room.
I'm trying to get a hold of him right now because he said he was going to be here.
He's one of the reasons we're talking about Wendigos and skinwalkers, because he requested it.
I know. I told him and he was really excited. He said he would be there.
That's all right. We've always got the replay. And, honestly, we have more people, more of our listeners that listen to the replay later because of the late hour that we are on. And I understand that completely. It's going on 3 in the morning in the East Coast. So, totally get it. And on that note, stay tuned. We will be right back after this break.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
We've had several days of 80-degree plus weather here in Concrete, Washington. My family's favorite way to keep cool in this heat is to stop by Java Zone 2 and grab a delicious iced latte for me and a blended mocha for my husband. Our son just loves their creamy milkshakes, and our daughter can't get enough of their ice cream. The best part is, Java Zone 2 is conveniently located just off Highway 20 beside Loggers Landing. And I'm proud to shop local for a business that has been a staple of the Concrete and Upriver community since it opened its doors in 2010. So if you're looking for a way to keep cool in this summer heat, come check out Java Zone 2. They're fast, friendly, and local.
Hello, my name's Cole Wegleitner with Statement of Sound DJ Productions. We do mixing, monitoring, recording, and editing for all your audio needs. For our local listeners in the Skagit area, we are taking bookings for your 2019 events and parties. We have a wide array of music from any genre. Please allow us to help you make these memories last forever. Contact us at 360-999-2830 or on Facebook at www.facebook.com/SOSDJPro.
Forest Moon Paranormal is a non-for-profit emergency response team that handles all aspects of the paranormal, helping you, your family, friends, and community since 2004. Whether you're having a problem with hauntings, spirits, Bigfoot, other types of cryptids, or UFO activity. Maybe you're just unsure of what's bothering or terrifying you. Or maybe you're just afraid of criticism and disbelief. FMP is here for you. We handle cases globally and locally from our headquarters in Skagit County, Washington. We never accept any form of payment for our services and are 100% confidential. You can find us on Facebook under Forest Moon Paranormal. You can private message us for assistance, or just come join in the discussion and become part of our growing FMP community.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Join us on September 28th at the Cedar-Woolley Community Center for 2019 Forest Moon Paranormal Paracon. VIP All Access passes on sale now at fmparacon.com. Your pass includes all-day admission to see the speakers and workshops, the Ghost Walk, a special VIP workshop, a special round table with the speakers, a Paracon t-shirt, and an FMP Paracon swag bag. These tickets can be purchased from fmparacon.com. Get yours today.
Hey everyone, Cole here with S4 Paranormal Radio, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. Looking for a way to get the word out there about your business, group, team, or product? Let us help you. A few clicks is all it takes to get started at s-4radio.com, or you can contact me at 360-999-2830.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
All right. We had some technical difficulties here. We are back now tonight. So welcome back to S4. Tonight we're talking creatures in the mountains and missing people. You can also find the archives at our Spreaker site and on the S4 YouTube channel for all the shows you've missed in the last 3 years. Anyway, back to the show. So yeah, in the midst of break, just before the commercials ended, our Skype decided to shut down. So here we are. We're back. I think everyone's back. Chris, Brent, you back? Dave, everybody back?
I am. I'm here.
Yep.
All right. So now we've got the Skinwalker. So the Skinwalker is primarily Navajo. It's primarily a Navajo, but I believe there's other tribes that call them different names. The key denominator with the Skinwalker is the fact that they're shapeshifters, because there's a lot of different entities out there that all shapeshift. And I remember, who remembers I think it was X-Files. I can't remember the name of this creature, but it was from Africa, I think it was, and it was a coyote. Anyone remember that one?
No.
Fleabag?
No.
Fleabag?
Nope.
That sounds about right. No, but it was a trickster coyote, and it was a man that could shapeshift into a coyote. Reminds me of a Skinwalker, but it was called something different because it was a different culture, which is why I think there's a lot of similarities. When you start talking about the Fae, especially, for example, you've got different fairies, different Fae that are very similar in Scotland, similar in Ireland, similar in the UK. Called different names, but same description. It all comes down to culture. Just like the Yeti versus Bigfoot. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Different culture, same critter.
Exactly. So, when you say the Skinwalker is Navajo, he's called the Skinwalker by the Navajo. So the Skinwalker is actually a very evil witch. So witchcraft existed in the Navajo tribes. That was part of their belief system. The difference with a normal witch in society today and the Skinwalker witch was to become a Skinwalker. They had to, and I know, see how many times Eric could say a Skinwalker and there's breath in one sentence. But they had to do a ritual where they actually killed someone close to them, usually a sibling. And that's what changed them into a Skinwalker. So, obviously they were a malevolent witch. They must be initiated by a secret society, which requires the most evil of deeds, the killing of a chosen family member, close family member, most often a sibling. Once that was completed, the individual then acquired supernatural powers, which gave them the ability to shapeshift into animals. Most common, the coyote, the wolf, the fox, the cougar, dogs, and bears. But they can take the shape of any animal. They then wear the skins of the animal they transform into, which is why they're called the Skinwalker. Now, because of that, many of these tribes actually banned the wearing of pelts. And the only pelt you see them wearing today is sheepskin, leather, and buckskin. You got anything to add, Don?
I'm sitting here reading NavajoLegends.org's info on this, and it's interesting because it says that it's also a medicine man who attained the highest level of priesthood within the tribe, but chose to use their power for evil by taking the form of an animal to inflict pain and suffering on others. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Basically, when you look at witches today, I couldn't see myself doing that. And most witches wouldn't do that. But, there's a misconception of a black witch and a white witch. And, there's no such thing as a black or a white witch. A witch is a witch. It's really how you use your abilities or how you use your energy or your motivation. So what's interesting too, and I'm going to back up here. So the evil society of the witches gather in dark caves or secluded places for several purposes: to initiate new members, plot their activities, harm people from a distance with black magic, and perform dark ceremonial rites. Basically, many different occults do this, not just skinwalkers. The ceremonies are similar to other tribal affairs, including dancing, feasts, rituals, and sand painting, but were corrupted with dark connotations. So the evildoers are also said to engage in necrophilia with female corpses, commit cannibalism, incest, and grave robberies. During these gatherings, skinwalkers shapeshift into their animal form or go about naked, wearing only beaded jewelry and ceremonial paint. The leader of the skinwalkers is usually an old man who is very powerful and a long-lived skinwalker. So some of their abilities they can read minds, they can control the thoughts and behavior of others, they can cause disease and illness, destroy property, and even death. So here's what's interesting, because when they talk about how can you tell if a skinwalker's around, it's a description we hear a lot. When we get clients, we always I hear footsteps or I hear knocks on the wall, things of that nature. And with skinwalkers, they make sounds around homes, such as knocking on windows, banging on walls, and scraping noises on the roof. On some occasions, they've been spied peering through windows. And these are all common elements of general paranormal activity, not just skinwalkers. So some of the supernatural powers they have too, they are said to run faster than a car. They have the ability to jump high cliffs. They're extremely fast, agile, impossible to catch, and leave tracks that are larger than those of any animal. When they've been seen, they've been described as not quite human, but not fully animal. And to kill a skinwalker, you have to know the name of the original person. And once you've identified their name and said their name, they'll die. So what else we got? I wanted to bring up too. You still with us, Dave?
I sure am. I'm happy to be here.
What are you so quiet? Everybody's so quiet. Come on now. Talk. So, I see similarities too with a lot of reports of alien abductees. With grays that appear in the windows. You have the owl and the deer, which are known to be used as screen memories for some aliens. I know you've heard of that.
Well, yeah, the owl.
I've got a ton of owl and deer stories.
Right?
Dealing with the grays.
And so, yeah, I look at the overall picture and go, wow. So this is common with all paranormal. This is common with alien abduction. But how can you tell if it's a skinwalker? not just a spirit knocking on the wall? Well, obviously you look for animal form, but then now that we have an animal form, is it an alien abduction? Well, if it's an owl or a deer, I would question that. Because the thing with the alien abductions, they can basically do a screen mask, a screen memory, but they can't hide the eyes. That's why with alien abduction, it's usually the deer, the owl, or the rabbit that people remember and remember being terrified of. Would you agree with that, Keith?
Absolutely. The owl being the most common of them.
Right. And Joe's got lots of owls. We hear about them all
I
the
have a
time.
ton of owls. They're out here all the time. I don't know if I've ever seen a skinwalker, and I think you all know there's a lot of animals come around my place.
Right.
One afternoon, I was sitting here right where I am right now, and outside, and a deer walked up. It stood maybe 30 feet, maybe 40 feet away, and just sat there and was watching me. I thought, well, that's different. You know, he's not eating the grass, and he's just staring there watching me. And then I noticed the one odd thing about it. Its eyes were glowing green. Now, this wasn't at night with a light reflector. This is the afternoon. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I don't mind telling that story because I do have a picture of it, and you can see the deer with the glowing green eyes.
Now, I'm trying to remember.
It's your aliens, Joe.
Aliens.
No, I would be more prone to say Skinwalker with that one. Because they even say that the Skinwalker, the thing is different with the eyes, with when they're in animal form, because again they're shapeshifters. But when they're in animal form, they have human eyes. But when they're in human form, they have animal eyes. Have you guys heard that one?
I have.
So yeah, the eyes are always unique with the Skinwalker. And again, once the name is identified, names have power. I'm waiting on Cole. Next, we have the Pukwudgie. So who's heard of a Pukwudgie?
They
They're
are
over there
very
in Rhode Island, aren't they?
They are very synonymous with the Bridgewater Triangle.
Now you're going to educate me because I haven't heard that story. So what do you got for us?
The Bridgewater Triangle is a place in the New England area that has a lot of weird things happen. There's been skinwalkers seen there. There's been Pukwudgies, UFOs, Bigfoot, goblins, gnomes, sprites, fairies, ghosts, demons, time warps. There's been a whole plethora of strangeness happening in this triangle area, and they just can't seem to figure out what it is. But they're on the East Coast. It is very well known in the paranormal community that the Pukwudgie, which stands approximately, I believe, 3 to 4 feet tall, it's not a very big creature, but it is something that is very, very ravenous and very much ready to attack at any time.
Yeah. Now, the stories I've read, it's a hit and a miss. Usually they're mischievous. They're not aggressive, but they can turn aggressive, and we'll get to them. And yeah, they're like 3 to 4 foot tall. Some cultures relate to them with a leprechaun, I believe, isn't it?
Yes.
And real quick, so Kayla's in the chat room. She says the Upper Skagit tribe has now I don't know anything about this. We'll have to look into it. But the Lashute legend of the basket woman, who is very similar to the Skinwalker. So, cool. We'll have to look into that. Ideally,
it's a bag lady?
Huh? No.
It's a bag lady?
A Lachute seed basket woman. Not a bag lady.
We're all going to be making baskets.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't wait to have someone from the Upper Skagit tribe on the show to talk about local lore. Because
I'm working on it.
There's going to be a lot of that. Well, yeah. So is Cole. Cole's got an inside track as well. So hopefully we'll be able.
Nice.
Hopefully, the more people we have working on that, the sooner we can get someone, especially to Paracon.
Yeah, if I could interrupt here, where we did past the Pudwudgie, I believe it was. I was all down with Bigfoot and stuff and the aliens and everything. Then we started talking about the Fae and the fairies and the demons, and then you guys went off into this whole thing with like 5 billion different things. Do you guys draw the line at anyone or anywhere and say, okay, they're full of crap, that's not existing? I'm just curious.
No,
for instance,
I usually won't talk about something unless I specifically encountered it. Now, the Fae I have. And like I said, I researched these creatures. But if they come from Native American lore, you can guarantee there's an element of truth to most of those legends. Now, again, the Rake and Slenderman, those are usually thought forms. They're rare because it's usually like a horror website. It was a created Slenderman, and the more people watched it, the more people got terrified by it. That was a creature that was created through a thought form.
Well,
like a tulpa. A tulpa. There you go.
I was running across the dinosaur, the flying ones around the Mount St. Helens area, and they were talking about these bird-like men with these huge wingspans and stuff. And I just kind of wondering how we all miss, dinosaurs flying around and stuff. And so, and you don't hear too many stories. So I just wondering if we ever called bullshit on anybody, if we just let it all go.
So when I get a report or something like that, if I don't get 2 to 3 sources, that's usually what if I can't get a minimum of 3 independent sources on the same story, then yeah, I will kind of push it away.
Okay, good deal.
That's usually my requirement when I do research, is at least a minimum of 3 sources. Ideally, more than that.
Good to know you have boundaries, Eric.
Oh, yeah. But pterodactyls flying around on Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens? No. No.
Oh, what about the tree octopus?
That one I've never even heard of.
Oh, are you kidding? You're not. Oh, my gosh. I just read about it, and it was an internet hoax that some guy created in, 1998. But it had a Latin name for the whole thing, and they were trying to put it on an endangered species list, and it looked like a damned octopus sitting in a tree. I mean, that was all there was to it. I couldn't even believe that people bought into it, but there was a big old thing. They were trying to save the tree octopus, Pacific Northwest.
Oh, nope. That one's never crossed my desk.
Yeah. Alrighty then.
So the Pukwudgie is also known as the Bagwajinini, and they were said to live in the wilderness throughout North America. The Native Americans believed the Pukwudgies were creatures that had once lived in harmony with humans but had turned against them. So I would chalk up the Pukwudgie as a Fae type creature. Would that be about accurate, Keith?
From my understanding of the answer would be yes.
It sounds about right. They sound like they have too many Fae elements to them. They've featured the folklore of diverse tribes, the Wampanoag tribe of Massachusetts and southern New England to the Algonquian tribe of the Great Lakes region. and it was best to leave the creatures alone. So Pukwudgie translates to person of the wilderness. They're small creatures ranging from knee-high to about 3 foot tall. Human-like features, but they have larger eyes, nose, and fingers. Yeah, it sounds like a troll. Their skin's been described as gray and smooth, and they have often been compared to trolls and goblins. There you go. And they're known to taunt or harm humans. So the threat that Pukwudgies posed tended to vary from region to region. In some places they were considered benign, even helpful. That sounds more brownie-like. In others, they were mischievous but harmless. And in other regions, they were murderous.
My.
Yeah, and again, that depends on the individual in this case.
Right. And I could see that. And I could see it depending on the tribe too. So the Wampanoag tribe has a particularly detailed origin story of the Pukwudgie. Legend has it the creature originally got along well with humans, but humans were distracted by their relationship with Maushop, a giant, kind-spirited deity who created the landmass we now know as Cape Cod. The jealous Pukwudgies were offended that they weren't as well loved as Maushop and began to cause more and more mischief. So after the Wampanoags had a talk with Maushop's wife, Maushop exiled the Pukwudgies and forcefully spread them far and wide throughout North America. Now, do we have Pukwudgies here upriver? I don't know. We've never had reports of them.
With a name like that, they wouldn't survive.
No.
No Pukwudgies.
So, in other accounts, they actually killed Maushop. The Pukwudgies actually killed Maushop's 5 sons. Some variations suggest that they even killed Maushop himself. And again, that probably depends on the region that these stories originated. So like leprechauns, the legendary little people of Ireland, Pukwudgies are capricious. Their powers depend which tribe you ask. A human who annoyed a Pukwudgie might just be the victim of some unpleasant trickery, but they might also be pushed off a cliff, shot with a fiery arrow, or have their children stolen. Naughty, naughty, naughty.
Well, people don't talk about the Pukwudgies being a lot of different places, but basically it's a little guy with a bad attitude that lives in the woods, and you could find those all over the world, right?
True.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you got me there.
So here's what's interesting, because one of the first mentions of Pukwudgies actually comes from literature from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the Song of Hiawatha, which refers to, quote, the mischievous Pukwudgies that killed the giant Kwasind by pelting him with pine cones. So Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was inspired by Henry Rowe Schoolcraft, who in turn based his works on the Ojibwe tribe, as told to him by his part Native American wife, Jane. So it's really interesting when you have a lot of this lore that comes historically from Henry Wadsworth. Anything to add?
Is anybody familiar with the New Jersey Devil?
We're going to get to that.
Yes, we are.
That's actually on my list. And here's Cole.
Oh, man.
What's up, guys?
So, did you have a fun trip, Cole?
I did. It was an excellent wedding.
Good.
By the way, this is now the most high-class show we've ever done.
It's the most
I am sitting here in my suit doing a show.
How did we pull that off?
So where are we at?
So we are about to hit the Chupacabra.
Don't do that. He'll hit back.
I know.
It won't hit. They'll bite.
Chupacabra. The dog thing from Texas or the lizard thing from Puerto Rico?
Yeah, pretty much.
It depends. And you know what? There haven't been, to my knowledge, any reports of the chupacabra recently in the last 10 years. Or currently in the last 10 years. So what are your thoughts on that? Have you gotten any recent reports on the chupacabra, Dave?
No, I mean, they're still being seen, but as for any major reports of killing livestock or trying to harm people, I have not heard of anything, within the last couple of years. I mean, is that troubling? Who knows? But, I mean, the chupacabra is one of those creatures. I'm not even sure what we're looking at here. To me, it's just a dog with mange. A really bad case of mange, and I don't know how real it is.
Well, and some have claimed coyote with mange, and that's always a possibility as well.
Isn't it also a possibility that they went extinct?
Or did they take them home, Keith?
Well, Lord knows they were trying to.
Trump told me at the border.
Well, like you think about it, any other animal has the possibility of going extinct. Why wouldn't a cryptid?
Well, yeah. The only problem I have with the idea of them going extinct is the number of so-called extinct animals that have been found later.
Right.
Mind you, they aren't exactly a stupid animal, so they could well have gone into hiding.
Well, like the Bigfoot, but. Yeah, it's easy to hide interdimensionally. I don't think chupacabra is interdimensional whatsoever, but
maybe they're being detained at the border.
Let's not open that can of worms.
I'm sorry.
What I find, so I've got notes throughout my research that I was doing this last week on these cryptids. And the similarities with cattle mutilations, for example, other than the chupacabra as a bloodsucker, is really the only thing. Because with cattle mutilations, there's no blood; they're completely I can spit this out. Exsanguinated, meaning
close.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long day. So there's no blood. But there's also no blood dropped on the ground. So whatever took the blood out of these livestock, and they're dropped from the air. Chupacabra can't do that either.
No, chupacabra cannot drain the blood without leaving a mark.
Exactly. So
without leaving a trace.
Chupacabra literally means goat sucker. It was titled after a series of fatal attacks in Puerto Rico, which left the victims with 3 hold bite marks. Now, why only 3 holes?
Maybe they like bowling.
Usually these creatures, you think of vampires, they have 2 fangs. These have 3?
Well, that's because they've got a bottom jaw that splits.
Okay.
That report that I emailed you earlier today about the Baker Lake Highway thing.
Yeah.
That was a cattle thing.
It was a what?
That was the cattle thing.
Right.
There was nothing left behind or anything.
Yeah, and that's yeah. No, I read
exactly.
I read the report, and that's actually common with Bigfoot. Bigfoot will pack off easily 500-pound calves with that report because I've seen it done here.
That's a snack.
So with the chupacabra,
as far as your chupacabras go, I think you got 2 different things there.
Okay.
You have the ones down in Texas that, in my mind, it's always just been something interspecies breeding, maybe between a domestic dog or the northern Mexican wolf, and maybe there've been a few around, but they always look mangy, and maybe they can't breed. Maybe that's why you don't hear about them anymore. And the other chupacabra in Puerto Rico, it was a short spate there, and that's where it got the name, the chupacabra, the goat sucker.
Right.
I always thought, but it was more of a reptilian thing. I always thought that one might have been somebody's pet that got off their UFO that was landed, went out and wreaked havoc for a little while. They whistled for it, it got back in, they left.
Come on.
Well, you're sort of correct.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Although, what's the question? Whistling for the thing.
Have we thought about the fact that maybe the sightings of the chupacabra in Texas are down because of the increase in wild hog activity?
That's
Killer bacon in Texas.
That's an interesting theory.
Those hogs will eat anything.
Or it's because they're putting a wall up.
That's what
Yeah,
my
I
friend
went
said
there.
about me.
You don't pay much attention to the wall.
I just got a maintain man. I died. Funny man.
But, yeah, and I only brought it up because, well, chupacabra is documented. But, again, there haven't been any valid recent reports of them, which I think the spaceship landed. They didn't whistle, like he said, but I think they either took them home or, again, they're in hiding.
On ship.
Say again?
I said at least took them back on ship.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want them going home anytime soon.
Yeah, bad Fido. Bad Fido.
And when I was online today, I ran across the map, and do you know that every single state in the Union has their own cryptid or their monster or whatever they want to call it? Every single one of them has an official one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are you going to say about all those little midget birds and furry beasts and stuff? Are there that many variations or what? What's going on with that?
I think it has a lot to do with lore. If you look at all the different states and all the different, and a lot of those cryptids that they describe are very similar, if not the same, in other states, just with a different name.
Yeah, they kind of go back and forth between like the winged things and the little like devil animal things, and then the apes. They kind of seem to, go between the three of them.
So what's interesting with Mothman, for example, there's, I think it was it last year that Chicago started seeing Mothman-like sightings,
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, it was about a year and a half ago that started. Lon Strickler is the one who kind of broke that story that it was these Mothman sightings were happening in Illinois.
Yeah. So, I mean, you still there's been a lot of skepticism with Point Pleasant, the founders of the Mothman, as far as somebody made it up to put Point Pleasant on the map. So I really don't know what to think as far as that goes. I mean, was it made up? Was it a hoax so that we can put Point Pleasant on the map and have a big celebration every year and yada yada? But now you've got a very similar type creature being seen in Illinois. So, is there a creature? It could be a very large bat. It could be, it could be a number of things. It could be a carrot.
They said that they found him like in the 1960s and stuff, but the sightings of him just absolutely have gone through the roof. About, I think it was the year 2000, 2002 or something.
Yeah,
right
it's
about
harder
the
to
time
hide
the
now.
movie came out.
With Mothman?
Yeah, right after Richard Gere's movie came out, the sightings increased tenfold.
And is that groupthink? Is that potentially because people are looking for it and they saw it?
That's what I'm going to assume on that one, because they said that it first came out in the 60s, but then it stopped and nobody talked about it at all. And it wasn't until 2002, I think it was, after Richard Gere's Mothman prophecies came out, and then they just went through the roof.
Yeah.
But they seem to, say, there's everything's kind of solid, so,
And Mothman's actually on my list, so we'll get to Mothman shortly. The thing with Chupacabra. So Chupacabra started in the 1970s in Puerto Rico when there were a bunch of farm animals and pets that died. That's what started Chupacabra. And then people began whispering that the deaths came at the paws of a mad animal. Fast forward to the mid-90s, and a Puerto Rican woman reported seeing a monstrous being near her home, and she described him as a red-eyed alien-type figure covered in spikes. And that's when the movie Species came out.
Ah.
Well, what was Species? She had spikes. And very similar in appearance to Chupacabra. So what you find is, look at what movies come out. And that's where,
are the movies creating the lore, or are the movies trying to let us know what's really going on?
I think
depends on the director.
Say again?
I said that depends on the director and the producer. I don't know which fits where, but I can tell you two of the ones that it boils down to getting the information out.
Yeah, Chris Carter from X-Files being one of them, and Steven Spielberg being the other.
And the third one being Lucas. There's
Okay.
also one in Europe that I keep forgetting the guy's name.
Right. So there's four. There's four
Guillermo del
directors.
Toro.
Say again?
You mean Guillermo del Toro? Is that who you're talking about?
I missed the name.
Guillermo del Toro?
Quite possibly. The best I can tell you there is, as soon as I get an idea of something he's put out, I can tell you.
Crap, I can't
Guillermo
remember.
del Toro had the series out where there was vampires on Manhattan. I think he did that.
Hold on a second.
Those are vampires in Manhattan. If that's any help.
Guess what's filming in Calgary this week?
What?
I'm guessing
Ghostbusters 3.
Ghostbusters 3.
Yes.
Oh, Dave's there.
Dave's always here.
Speaking of new things coming out, you've all heard that your favorite ghost hunters are coming back, right?
Oh, God. Which ones is that?
The Roto-Rooter guys, one of them coming back with the show.
Seriously?
Yep. Saw it advertised today on TV.
Okay. That's it. Guillermo del Toro did Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, okay. Then the answer would be yes.
Okay. I believe he's from... I don't think he's from Europe, though. I believe he's from south of us.
Mexico?
I don't know if it's Mexico or one of the others, but one of the other countries to the south, but
There's a few.
His Twitter just says he's from Earth, so that doesn't really help me.
Well, it might.
Oh.
Most of the people I talk to from around here are pretty much from that planet.
Guillermo's from Guadalajara.
There we go.
Shape of Water, Hellboy, Pacific Rim.
Oh, Hellboy, my.
Did he do the old Hellboy or the new one?
Let me check real quick.
And while you're doing that, let's talk about the Jersey Devil.
Yes.
So, the story with the Jersey Devil says that in the 1700s, a woman in New Jersey's Pine Barrens had 13 children. The last of and 13's a big number. 13's, what they call a witch's number. Which is, yeah.
For the bad one.
And they also, they love to say witches work with the devil and yada yada. I'm sorry, but we don't believe in the devil. That's not our belief system. But anyway, with the Jersey Devil, her 13th child, the last of whom was a devil, flew out the chimney and disappeared shortly after birth. There are several variations to the story, including one where the woman cursed her unborn child by invoking Satan. Yeah, okay. She wasn't too happy to be pregnant again.
Well, she done something about that beforehand.
Yeah, that was before Planned Parenthood. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Yeah. And he was a cute little bugger too. He had hooves and he was kangaroo kind of like, and he was goat and horse like, and his bat had wings and had horns.
Exactly. So the Jersey Devil's depicted as having a horse head.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain, but I'm pretty sure that makes him a very well-rounded kid.
He was.
Yeah.
He had a horse head, bat-like wings, and claws. Although it's rarely seen. Instead, it makes its presence known via eerie wailing. Now that reminds me of the Banshee. Brent,
I was thinking more along the lines of an imp.
Bad delivery though.
So the eerie wailing, awful cries, and rampaging sounds throughout the forests of the Pine Barrens area. One notable sighting came in 1909, when Trenton councilman E.P. Whedon reported being awakened in the night by flapping wings outside his bedroom window. In the morning, he found cloven prints stamped in the snow. As soon as the news broke, hundreds of people claimed suddenly that they too had spotted the Jersey Devil. So, yeah, that's what you call groupthink. When everybody, and they actually have, if you want a source, look for the New Jersey Historical Society. You can actually find information on the Jersey Devil.
I wonder who was thinking in that group, though.
So, some say it had its origins with Daniel Leeds of the 18th century New Jersey, a former Quaker. He publicly butted heads with Quaker leaders on religion, occultism, and politics for years. When stories of the Jersey Devil arose, it was said to be the child of a mother Leeds and looked much like the winged dragons on the Leeds family crest. So it's interesting, you can always kind of find roots if there's a bunch of, hoaxing going on. The truth usually comes out in the wash. And we're coming close to the top of the hour. We have about 12 minutes, so we're going to hit Mothman. So, Mothman started November 15th, 1966, when 4 young adults noticed 2 red lights in the shadows of the West Virginia Ordnance Works, a former TNT factory from the World War II era. So they stopped to investigate, and they claimed that they saw a 6 or 7 foot tall creature that resembled a man with large wings. The 2 red lights that they had seen were his eyes. So they ran home in their car. The Mothman flew after them. Once the news got out, more than 100 people in the Point Pleasant, West Virginia region reported seeing the Mothman over the next year. And then, of course, if you saw the movie, they started getting phone calls. And then, of course, the bridge collapsed. What was the rest of the story, Dave? Do you remember?
When the Silver Bridge collapsed, it killed, I believe, 36 people from the community. And right after that, the Mothman sightings seemed to stop, which led to the legend that the Mothman was some sort of ominous devil that brought bad luck with it. And that's why people were seeing it so frequently in the area leading up to the collapse of the Silver Bridge.
So the rational question from my end is, of the people that were killed, how many of them were actually witnesses to the Mothman first?
Nobody knows, because the entire bridge collapsed into the river, and that's what ended up killing them, is through drowning and the tons of metal that fell on top of their vehicles.
And so another story I had heard about the whole thing before was that Mothman had nothing to do with the bridge collapsing. It had to do with that particular bridge hadn't been inspected in years, was on the verge of collapse anyway. And so there was nothing really paranormal about the whole situation. Have you heard that part of the story?
Yeah, we have heard that part of the story, but let's face it, we deal in the woo, man. We don't need to be having any of that reality type talk.
I deal with the woo, but I also look at the mundane. That's the first thing I try to look at usually. Now, when it comes to obviously going to clear someone's house because the dog's not going in the kid's bedroom, that's not woo. That's, okay, you got something there, because if the dog and cat are affected and the kid's affected, that's not a bridge inspection. So
I think if there was a cryptid out there that could, for whatever reason, destroy a bridge, there would be more bridges destroyed. And you're just not seeing that happen.
But the story's not that the Mothman destroyed the bridge. The story is that the Mothman predicted the bridge collapsing. If you go by the theories that are thrown out in the movie and the stories and the reports that supposedly came out with it. I'm not saying Mothman isn't real. I'm just saying, you got to look at. I like to look at both sides of that fence. Was he real? If again, if you talk to the experiencer that actually saw a Mothman with two red glowing eyes and had large wings and was humanoid, to be perfectly honest with myself, I'd probably say, oh my God, it must be an off-worlder. I wouldn't even think of a Mothman. What about you, Keith?
Well, when it comes to whether they're real or not, that sort of is a debatable point. But you are absolutely right. The people that have seen them will swear up and down they're real.
Right.
The hard part from my standpoint is I don't have anything solid to work with. Sounds really odd, but to determine whether or not it really is real, one thing is for certain. It's not an off-worlder.
Oh, no, it's definitely, it falls into the cryptic category. And I love Kayla's comment, so that's why Tesla built the Wardenclyffe Tower, a huge bug zapper for Mothman.
Yeah. Well, there's a cute thought.
Right?
I'm not that would be the reason, but, it is interesting.
What was great in the game Red Alert, too. Command and Conquer. I love the Tesla towers. Great for defense. So, Don.
Yes.
So, what? Do you have anything else? What do you think about Mothman?
He is interesting to me. I just think that with the stories of the tragedies that happened afterwards, I'm not so certain that he's evil. Maybe, I don't know. I just find that one probably the most interesting one of them all.
And it made a great movie. I'll say that.
Yes.
The movie was awesome. Makes me want to go watch it again, actually. It'll do much better than John Wick 3. I wasn't impressed.
You know, there comes a certain time when certain franchises need to be let die.
That one, you know, and I love the John Wick series. Don't get me wrong, I love Keanu Reeves. But, I don't know, Cole, I wasn't impressed.
I don't know. Same
no
crap,
spoilers,
different
I
day.
haven't seen it.
Oh, I'm not gonna. There's no spoil. No, I'm not gonna spoil nothing. But yeah, I
Same crap. It's the same crap, different day.
It was, and it's gonna lead right into a fourth one.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, they didn't even leave the door. They just left the door wide open for the fourth one.
They held it.
And so Kayla wants to know: did any of the people that saw him die on the bridge? And I'm assuming you're talking about Mothman. I don't believe Mothman was even on the bridge. Again, I think Mothman was just really a predictor that the bridge was going to collapse, and it did.
No, that's what I was asking a little earlier. And that they didn't know.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Unfortunately, interviewing the people that died would be a little problematic.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think Mothman was anywhere near the bridge when it collapsed either, was he?
Not from my understanding.
According to the stories?
The catch there is if he was a harbinger, and if the people that were killed were actually witnesses to him, it may have been just that. A harbinger saying, by the way, your time's up.
Right. And that goes right along with what a banshee is.
Yeah. Just the banshee's a whole lot more noisy.
True. But if you're looking at culture, the banshee comes from Ireland. So who's to say in Ireland the banshee wasn't the equivalent of the Mothman?
Which is a distinct.
Or you have all the stories, I haven't heard any lately, about flying humanoids. That was a big rage there for quite a while down in Mexico City.
And same with UFO sightings. I mean, there, and I think there's still daily UFO sightings in Mexico City.
Oh, you can bet there are. The fact that they aren't being reported right now does beg the question of why not.
It depends on where you go to report them. And, on that, I am going to say right now that, because we talked about it earlier in the show, but if you have a UFO or a Bigfoot report you need to get done, come to Forest Moon Paranormal and get the report and submit it to us, and we'll check it out. We do have teams in other locations that can do boots on ground like we do here. Because the only other reporting center that I encourage people to go to is New Fork, and that's with Peter Davenport, because I know he hasn't sold out. He's the only one I can say without a shadow of a doubt hasn't sold out. And I think you would agree, wouldn't you, Dave?
I would say there's a lot of people who haven't sold out, but under the current conditions of the way the field of ufology is right now, I think where you're seeing a real turning in the tides of people trying to stay relevant compared to keeping their opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a chaotic world we're in right now in all fronts, whether it's paranormal or mundane. And on that note, we're going to our last break of the night. When we come back, we're actually going to start talking Missing 411.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
We've had several days of 80-degree plus weather here in Concrete, Washington. My family's favorite way to keep cool in this heat is to stop by Java Zone 2 and grab a delicious iced latte for me and a blended mocha for my husband. Our son just loves their creamy milkshakes, and our daughter can't get enough of their ice cream. The best part is, Java Zone 2 is conveniently located just off Highway 20 beside Loggers Landing. And I'm proud to shop local for a business that has been a staple of the Concrete and Upriver community since it opened its doors in 2010. So if you're looking for a way to keep cool in this summer heat, come check out Java Zone 2. They're fast, friendly, and local.
Hello, my name's Cole Wegleitner with Statement of Sound DJ Productions. We do mixing, monitoring, recording, and editing for all your audio needs. For our local listeners in the Skagit area, we are taking bookings for your 2019 events and parties. We have a wide array of music from any genre. Please allow us to help you make these memories last forever. Contact us at 360-999-2830 or on Facebook at www.facebook.com/SOSDJPro.
Forest Moon Paranormal is a non-for-profit emergency response team that handles all aspects of the paranormal, helping you, your family, friends, and community since 2004. Whether you're having a problem with hauntings, spirits, Bigfoot, other types of cryptids, or UFO activity. Maybe you're just unsure of what's bothering or terrifying you. Or maybe you're just afraid of criticism and disbelief. FMP is here for you. We handle cases globally and locally from our headquarters in Skagit County, Washington. We never accept any form of payment for our services and are 100% confidential. You can find us on Facebook under Forest Moon Paranormal. You can private message us for assistance, or just come join in the discussion and become part of our growing FMP community.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Join us on September 28th at the Cedro Woolley Community Center for 2019 Forest Moon Paranormal Paracon. VIP All Access passes on sale now at fmparacon.com. Your pass includes all-day admission to see the speakers and workshops, the Ghost Walk, a special VIP workshop, a special round table with the speakers, a Paracon t-shirt, and an FMP Paracon swag bag. These tickets can be purchased from fmparacon.com. Get yours today.
Hey everyone, Cole here with S4 Paranormal Radio, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. Looking for a way to get the word out there about your business, group, team, or product? Let us help you. A few clicks is all it takes to get started at s-4radio.com, or you can contact me at 360-999-2830.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
Welcome back to S4 tonight. We're talking creatures of the mountains and missing people. You can also find the archives at our Spreaker site and on the S4 YouTube channel for all the shows you've missed in the last 3 years. Anyway, back to the show, and now we're going to go switch gears, but not really. Because the creatures we've talked about in the last 2 hours, are they part of the reason these people are missing? Or are we completely off base? So, who's familiar with David Paulides?
Yep.
Dave, raise your hand.
Of course I am.
So, and so Izzy and I were talking about this just before the show, right about 9 o'clock, that are the numbers exaggerated? So if you have 100 people missing, you can figure, 10 of them were probably murdered by serial killers. Maybe. 10 of them just want to disappear. They want to get out of the situation they're in. They're gone. I would say maybe 10 killed by cougar, bear, normal mundane wild animals. That still leaves a wide number that are unexplained. What is funny is when you start seeing the FBI involved, because the FBI doesn't investigate missing people, they investigate terrorist reports and serious crimes.
Could it be because it's federal land?
As far as FBI, no, that's usually that falls under the Forestry Service, not the FBI. You won't find the FBI, and that's what's funny though, is when you look at the patterns of the missing people. There's always, so these are cases where they brought canines in. The canines start whimpering and they sit down. They won't go look. These are also cases where search and rescues have been into these areas repeatedly, and then all of a sudden they find the body 2 weeks later in the exact same spot search and rescue's already been multiple times. So we're going to go over the patterns, and it's a lot. And before we even proceed, I want to say, if you're looking for David Paulides' books, don't go on Amazon. You're going to pay $150. Go on Can-Am, missingcanam.com, and get them straight from David Paulides, because you're only going to pay $24. I don't know why it is, other than people just jacking up prices. But Amazon, you'll go on Amazon and eBay and pay triple what you'll pay on his website from him. So just had to throw that out there, because I wasn't going to buy his books. Looking at $70, $150, and I went on his website and was like, oh, they're only $24.99. Okay. Now, and I've said this on the show before, but what we need to do is get an overlay map so we can look at David Paulides clusters, and then at the same time look at UFO reports, Bigfoot reports, and any other cryptid reports, and see if there's any similarity in those areas. That would be interesting.
Could it be that these people are disappearing in these national parks and these preserves where the government has said no one can go in there and build, just leave it like it is, leave it pristine wilderness, because the government knew maybe there's an alien base there or something there that's dangerous, and they just wanted to keep everybody away. And every once in a while, one of those things comes out and grabs a hiker.
And that's always possible. And, the other thing you got to look at is, why don't they want drones going over national forest land? What do they have to hide? It's not because
we have a lot of problem with the drones out here because of the fires. Once the drones get up, all the aerial tankers have to stop doing what they're doing because people with their drones.
But that doesn't
have anything to do with searches. But
no, I completely get that. Just like if search and rescue's in an area and there's an active search site, I can get that. Because then they have to stop, they have to ground their birds that are up in the air looking for the missing person. I can completely understand that. But we're talking cases that FMP's been on where we're looking for basically bodies, because the two individuals have been missing for a year. We're just trying to help the family get closure. And we were told, no, you can't have your drone because it's national forest. Why? What's the problem? It's not because there's a fire hazard, because I can understand burn ban, you know, depending on the kind of drone you're using, your drone might cause a fire. I understand that. It's snowbank. So there's no fire threat. So what's the problem with using drones in national forest? So I understand if there's a military base on top of a mountain, like we have up here in some cases, because they're classified bases. I get that. But that's not all of the national forest. So what's being hidden? They don't want
secret stuff.
Say again?
Well, so the list of possibilities of what they're hiding could be rather extreme.
Oh yeah.
Well, I look back at when Sam was missing, Eric, you and your team went up and you wanted to help, and you know you guys were offering your services for all these other people, and they're saying, "Oh no, you guys, no, thank you, we don't need your services or whatever." And everybody's going, "Well, that doesn't make sense. All the help, more help, you know, makes sense." But looking at it that way, it kind of would explain why family members are saying no, they don't want your help after all. Like maybe the FBI or somebody is kind of telling them, you know, that they didn't want you involved because maybe you'd find too much.
Well, I do know about almost 10 years ago now, I was involved in a search and rescue it was somewhere down in the mid-states. I'd been approached by a young couple that a kid had gone missing.
Mm-hmm.
And we had come up with the information. We'd found the vehicle, found the rope in the trunk, complete with the blood, and we were spotting things that you could not see from Google.
Right.
Yes, we approached the couple that was dealing with me and told them flat out, "You stop dealing with him." You know,
And so with our team and like with what you do, Keith, yeah, we do catch ridicule. We do catch that. Oh, those are just those crazy guys. They're not going to help you. They're going to give you false hope. You have that, but that's on the client side of it. That's not on the government side.
No, it was the government that stepped in and told them to shut down.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Communication with me. Even though we were coming up with solid information that could be proven by hand, by boots on ground.
Right. So some of the elements with missing 411. Oftentimes these victims have a disability. So then you have to ask, is that why they came up missing? Did they choose to come up missing? Victim was playing with his or her dog at the time of the disappearance. And you wanted to bring up the Krieger case, did you not, Jamie?
Yes, I did. That is a perfect example of something that is just not explainable at all. Everybody was trying to point fingers at the boyfriend, Larry Presley, and the people that went up on that hill with them and everything. Well, it's funny because Larry had nothing to gain by her death whatsoever, because she was asking him to marry her. He was going to get half of everything if he had married her. So it made no sense whatsoever for him to have done it in the first place. And then they put all these little things together, like they said, yeah, well, he gave his house to one of his nephews that was on the mountain that day. No, Larry was going to prison, and he needed somebody to stay in the house. And they fit all these little things in there and tried to pawn it off, on the family. And they did not know anything. There was a bunch of bungling and poor decisions and crap they did, but they did not have anything to do with her. The Skagit County Sheriff's Department now, they bungled it. Brad Holmes, in particular, they were letting the search go. He was sitting up there in his rig, and he was waiting for more search and rescue people to show up as it was getting dark. And then they had her son, who he had already faked his own death once before, a suicide, and he was the one who was standing to inherit everything. Mm-hmm. And then they never have found the body up there. but they tried to make a big deal about her dog, the big Rottweiler, coming down. I guess it was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. Well, her dog would have stayed with her as long as he possibly could until he had to come down off the mountain. But her body has never been found. There's not been nothing. And they've searched for all the vehicles in the area, and they've done everything they possibly could, and there's absolutely nothing. And if the boyfriend who they were really trying to lay that on, if he didn't do it, and everybody that was up on that hill that day had been talked to, well, then who else could it have been except the one white van there that didn't have plates on it that nobody ever found again?
Yeah, and that's one of the missing cases, up here upriver that has never been solved, and I agree. And so I'm not going to go into the other case just because, well, there was a lot of bad blood with that case, and
yeah.
So the victim leaves with the dog, and that always kind of struck me odd that her dog came down 2 weeks after the fact. Where was her dog the whole time?
Mm-hmm. Well, see, that was the whole thing that everybody was saying. It's like, well, what happened to the dog? He appeared to be emaciated, like he had been starving or whatever. And that's kind of what I was thinking is, well, the dog should have heard search and rescue and, the other stuff happening, but that dog was, nowhere near it. They searched that whole area, and they've not found anything. But the dog made it down, and he was up on that mountain the entire time, that they were looking. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the worst part about the sheriff's investigation, they talked to those people on that mountain, the boyfriend and his family and stuff. They interviewed them one time only, and that was it. They never, ever went back to ask them any further questions, and I have never heard of a police investigation ever. I mean, burglary people get interviewed more than that, because as soon as one person tells a story, other facts will come up, so they go back to talk to that person again to try to get the rest of the story out, and not one of those people were interviewed more than one time.
Right. And that's something that the team might look into again when we get the chance.
Yeah, because I'm telling, like I said, Larry had nothing to gain by her death. He had everything to gain, though, by her being alive, because he would have inherited everything.
Right.
So when she went missing and disappeared, he got nothing. I mean, he got nothing.
So another fact, we brought this up earlier, and it has to do with the is it the Skinwalker or the Wendigo that does weather changing? Was anybody taking notes?
The Wendigo. Yep, the Wendigo.
The thing with these missing people is inclement weather hits the area at the time the victim disappears. We're not talking the weather report said, a storm's coming. No, we're talking the person disappears and then a storm hits. When it's supposed to be nice out. Kind of shows
it got real cold.
Weather control. So if you really want to go fringe or get the woo factor going, Dave, what if it is government involved and they used HAARP to control the weather?
Oh, I don't buy into that.
No.
Look, there's a lot of weirdos out there that we don't know about. There's a lot of weirdos that are out there that are causing a lot of this havoc, But I mean, we also have to bring in. I mean, if you look at the woo factor of everything, we also have to bring in the idea that there is a lot of strange happening in regards to people just vanishing. I mean, how many cases a year, never mind the forest, guys, but how many cases a year do we hear of these young men who are college educated, they have no issues whatsoever, and they're out in say, downtown Boston or downtown Seattle or Vancouver or wherever you may be, and they say to their buddies, hey, I'm just going to run behind that tree or that garbage can and go to the bathroom, and poof, they are gone. disappeared without any sound. Their buddies are only a few feet away, and there is nothing, no trace, nothing of these individuals. And that, to me, is, I honestly think that maybe some of these people are walking into different portals. If it's up in the forest, maybe it's alien, maybe it's Sasquatch, or maybe there are some very deranged serial killers out there who don't want any type of person. You know, I mean, you think about it. If you get a mountain man up there who hasn't really seen civilization for a while, and he sees a single woman walking her dogs into the forest, why not? That's total predatory. It would make complete sense.
But she disappeared in broad daylight, and there were other people on that mountain. There were people behind her and people ahead of her. There was no way possible for her to go anywhere without somebody seeing her, and nobody saw her or that dog at all for the next, solid, I think it was like 4 days of the search or something. It was broad daylight. She walked down one path, and there were people that walked right back up it, and they said she wasn't there.
But that's what I'm saying. And what if she walked into a portal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
And so one of two things happened. I agree. She either walked into a portal, or somebody's lying. So somebody's deranged, and they're the ones who did it.
And there were too many people up on that mountain that day. There was something like 45 people when that happened, because it was like right in the middle of the day, and it was like the last good hike of the year, and so that mountain was completely packed. And so even if the people that could have possibly have wanted to get rid of her, which they had no monetary gain or anything by doing it, there would have been other people.
But let's say there is a mountain man up there who has, I mean, it's easy in a forest. I mean, you're saying 45 people on a big mountain. That's not a lot of people.
It was a path, though. It was right. It's on Sauk Mountain there, and it wasn't in a brushy, kind of surrounding or anything. There's only one path up and one path down, though.
Yeah, that's the mountain right up. You've seen Sauk Mountain, Dave?
Yes, I have.
It's and it is woo factor to an extent. I find it, so the victim leaves with their dog. That's another one of the signs. And I'm not saying this is a missing 411. I'm just saying the possibilities are there. The victim is found uphill from where they go missing. Now, I specifically remember one case of one of the reports of his I read, where there was a 3-year-old that came up missing. And they found this 3-year-old like 3 miles away on the other side of a mountain cliff. That's an example of it. I don't know of any 3-year-old that can walk up a mountain, up and over we're talking, you have to rock climb to get to the other side of the mountain range that they're talking about. Now, wormhole, that could be. Portal, most definitely could be. Or picked up and carried by something. And I think that the freakiest cases I've read about on this are the ones where these people have weapons. And so they had a pistol, for example. The pistol was actually disassembled and neatly arranged on a towel, for example. Who does that? Who does that in the middle of the mountains?
Yeah.
Joe?
Nope.
Would you leave your pointy stick on a towel? No.
Never.
So have you created a manual on how to clean the pointy stick yet?
Yeah, but you got to go through Amazon to get it.
Okay. On it. The victim is found in a creek bed. So a lot of these cases that they've been researching and investigating over the years, water is always a key element with these missing people. Shoes is another big
bright colored clothing one of the things?
I believe so. With or without clothes. Victim is found without shoes. The victims that they did find alive were found dazed or confused, and they don't remember anything about what happened. Other ones remember a monster. So, switching to search dogs. So you have different kinds of search dogs. You have cadaver dogs that are trained solely to search for death, death and decay. Then you have search dogs that you give them a scent to sniff, and they go straight by scent. Search dogs, the canines cannot pick up a scent, or they simply don't want to. These are the dogs that actually just sit down, and they're confused. Dogs don't act that way. In other instances, they began tracking only to lay down and stop searching as if the person had vanished into thin air. And cadaver dogs are unable to locate a corpse.
Let's not forget, too, Eric, that there has been numerous cases where the dogs have refused to go up the trail because they have a scent of something that is scaring them. And these are dogs that are used to everything from grizzly bears to cougars.
Right, exactly. If it was a case of a deranged wild man that, serial killer, something mundane, these dogs would have been all over it.
There's also numerous cases where clothing has been found in areas that has already been searched and researched, where cases where clothing has been found right on trailheads where the clothing has been folded.
Yeah, and that's the next one. So I'm going off a list, and you're jumping ahead, but that's okay. We'll get there. The body is found in an area that's searched before. So yeah, in these cases, the missing appears in locations been thoroughly searched dozens of times, if not hundreds of times. So usually you get like 100 people searching an area, and the body is found 2 weeks later in the exact same area they searched already. They wouldn't have missed it.
That's what pretty much happened in the case with that Butch Witkowski has been searching for years and trying to figure out in the East Coast by a gentleman named Todd Stees, who disappeared while going to look up at his cabin for hunting, and the area where his body was found was on the main trail going into the forest, and hundreds of searchers walked that trail for days, having to enter right where the body was found, and there was no body there for days, and then all of a sudden the body just shows up.
Now, playing devil's advocate, could it be that it was a serial killer? They did what they were going to do to the body. Lord only knows what that may have been. And then they snuck back in and put the body in place.
But the amount of searchers that were in the area and the base camp that was made at the guy's cabin, it's impossible.
Agreed. I just had to throw out the other side of the fence there. Travel uphill instead of downhill. So these are missing that are found at high levels of elevation, such as mountain peaks. Frequently, the victim will travel an astounding amount of miles through the treacherous terrain in a time period which wasn't possible. And folks, go ahead.
And those are either portals or a pickup.
And I would agree.
And usually, they'll drop them back where they got them.
And for our listeners that haven't ever heard of this phenomena, go on YouTube and you just punch in David Paulides and you'll find a plethora of videos and interviews he's done. So weather-related phenomena. Again, we've talked about this, but this is shortly after the individual goes missing, the forecast takes a drastic turn. Not something that was in the forecast already, but torrential rain, lightning, fog, sandstorms, or blizzards, which delay search parties. Missing clothes, shoes, pants, shirts, and jackets are often removed. even by children who are too young to do it themselves. How does that happen? And if it's snowing out, why are they going to take their clothes off?
And you know, with Patty up on Stock Mountain, it was a beautiful day, blue sky, not a cloud in sight or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the first night it got dark, and they didn't do too much searching because it was too dark. And then the next day, instantly the weather came in and stuff, and then the search was put off for a few days because it was just this nasty, stormy, cloudy stuff out of nowhere.
And that irritates me in that, I was search and rescue for 2 years, off and on, before the Army, in the middle of my break in the Army, and then even after the Army. And we're trained extensively. There's no reason for there not to be night searches. There really isn't. Because search and rescue is trained, like I said, extensively. That's what we live for in SAR. Most
and
of
they were
them,
trying to use that thermal imaging too.
Well, and that again goes with the missing 401 side in that, thermal should have picked something up.
Exactly. Yeah, there's something really wrong with that situation and the way the sheriff's department dropped the ball like they did.
So I can't get into that just because we're on radio.
That's what I did.
those are things we'll get into one-on-one. Anyway, high amounts of plane crashes. Are you still with us, Cole?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I did not crash a plane, though. Don't be telling people this.
That's the thing. You was the balloon.
I was not there. I was not involved.
So, search planes and helicopters seem to crash at abnormally high rates during these specific cases. So, playing the mundane, when you get drones in the area that shouldn't be there, things of that nature, are they actually paranormal related? I think a lot of them probably are, but you have to look at the whole scenario. Extreme ends of the intellectual scale. So on one side, there are well-educated people, doctors, psychiatrists, physicists. Others have disabilities such as autism or Down syndrome. You don't have the general person. You have the opposite ends of that spectrum. This is interesting. So German ancestry, those with German heritage appear to go missing at a much higher rate. Oh, thank God I don't have German ancestry. We're good.
I do.
Bye, Joe.
Yeah, I know. We'll keep a close eye on you.
You really have to wonder who put that little piece of information together and how much they ignored on it.
Well, and where they got the statistics from? I mean, did you look at how many, out of all the cases, and this isn't anything against David Paulides, don't get me wrong, but out of all the cases David Paulides has researched, how many cases has he not heard about? That would skew the statistics.
Well, there's going to be a lot that you haven't heard about. The question I've got isn't so much how many he hasn't heard about,
right?
So much as how many he ignored.
Well, if they don't fit the patterns, he's there's
well,
I think with it, there's so many people missing. He picks and chooses how many of the patterns they fit versus how many they don't.
See, that's the problem with statistics.
Oh yeah,
you can make them look like anything you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the classic one with toothpaste being recommended by 4 out of 5 dentists. In simplest terms, that sounds like 80%. Until you find out that they interviewed 100 people before they found 4 that recommended it.
So the next one you're going to find interesting because it's common, And maybe you can, being a geologist or having a geology degree, Joe, you can help us with this one. A lot of these cases have boulder fields and granite. A high number of men and women vanish in boulder fields or areas with huge quantities of granite. For example, Yosemite National Park is the largest of all clusters and also happens to be the biggest source of granite on Earth. How would granite be a magnifier on this? Do you know?
I'm not sure, other than the fact that a lot of these places are national parks. They are wilderness that's rugged, and you get that because you have granite rocks there. You know, it doesn't weather like everything else. So you're going to have these huge, beautiful landscapes that somebody said, hey, let's make this a park, as opposed to the Sonoran Desert.
Right.
You know, I think that might be the part that figures in there.
So is it possible is there some kind of a magnetic field that granite holds?
Well, they say that there's a lot of quartz in granite, and there's the piezoelectric effect. They think that some of the earth lights are caused by that. I think it's just a coincidence thing, actually.
Okay. I just wanted,
One thing that's interesting, though, about people disappearing and then being found in other places, if you think about one of the most famous one, was Travis Walton. He was out in the woods. He disappeared for days. And probably the only reason we're hearing his story is because he was dropped off near civilization where he can get to a phone.
Yeah.
If he was dropped off out in the woods somewhere in a mountain, he might not have survived, and we wouldn't have that story.
And that's true, and that lends credence to the alien abduction theory with the missing 401 people.
Exactly.
Potentially. I don't think it's one thing. I think you have multiple scenarios going on for the number of people that come up missing.
Oh yeah, it's not just one item by any functional stretch.
No. So the next one is the victims retrieved near a body of water. Another common factor is the presence of water, whether it's a stream, a swamp, a lake. And if I remember right, there's a series of clusters near ocean shores. Not the city.
The majority of the population in the world lives near the ocean.
Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of these parks and stuff, I mean, you can't go 10 feet without finding a stream or a lake or like I said, you're up in these wilderness areas that there's water, there's rivers everywhere, there's lakes everywhere.
Right.
I think that just might be someplace that no matter where you're at, you're going to be near water.
Here's another, I won't say it's skewed, but statistically speaking, berry picking. Strangely, it's a reoccurring theme shared among several cases. Those who are picking berries seem to go missing at higher rates.
Well, let's face it.
Wasn't the little guy a couple of weeks ago that was disappeared for a couple of days? Didn't they find him in a berry patch? The one that a friendly bear took care of him for 3 days.
Oh, that was back in.
Wasn't he found?
That was back in January, February, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, wasn't he found in a berry patch? And they couldn't figure out how he got in there without getting scrapes and all that stuff all over him?
Yeah, he just
was that friendly bear that was helping him?
Yeah. You mean Bigfoot? Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to laugh at that one. Yeah, I'm sorry, but and the skeptics will say, "Well, bears take care of young. It could have been a bear." No, not the bears around here. The bears around here would have seen a snack. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
that was definitely to me a Bigfoot, not a bear. But yeah, as far as him being in a berry patch, I don't remember those details. I just the thing I keyed on was that was Bigfoot, not a bear. So, not feeling well or being tired. So, prior to the disappearance, friends and family state the victim had informed them that they were not feeling well or tired. Well, why were they hiking?
First, at the right frequency will do that to you.
Yeah, that's true too.
I've never said to myself, I feel horrible, I think I'll go for a hike.
No, not at all.
But I have done when I felt really tired. I've gone, I'm feeling really, really lethargic, too lethargic, so I'm going to go for a walk. Amazingly enough, it works like a charm.
Patty had a headache.
And another common one that I've seen in a lot of these cases is they were the last in line. So you've got a row of people walking up a mountain, and you're talking to Bob. All of a sudden, Bob's not answering. You turn around and Bob's gone. You're on an open. You're on an open trail.
Damn it, Bob.
Say again.
Damn it, Bob.
Right. So
don't be Bob.
No, don't.
Don't be like Bob.
So and you've got the skeptics again going, well, it was a cougar. Well, if a cougar took Bob, there'd be drag marks. You would hear something going through the brush, potentially. I will say cougars can be very stealthy. Cougars can be up in trees, but you would hear some
cougars
kind
can
of,
be in my yard.
Well, yeah, they're in our backyard. But you're going to hear some kind of commotion. Bob's just gone. So, you look at the patterns.
I think Keith is right. It's a combination of several factors. It could be Bigfoot, it could be UFOs, portals, time slips. There's any number of things, and it's probably a multiple of them.
So
a little of this, a little bit of that.
Only one.
I completely agree. And Don. Did Don disappear?
What's up? No, I'm right here.
How close to Yosemite are you?
Oh, shoot. Probably about a good 4 or 5 hours.
And Joe, you're closer, I believe, are you not?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm just west of Tahoe.
Okay.
A little further up the chain.
Yeah, because you're both in California.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time there, though.
Oh, be careful, because that's one of the hot spots. So,
oh yeah.
So what I want to do is get the cluster maps for the West Coast specifically, and now we do have listeners internationally, and with Missing 411, they have missing people globally. It's not just the United States, Canada. Although I haven't heard of a whole lot in Mexico. I'm sure that's coming up. And I know they have a Missing 411 movie coming up, too, if it's not already released. So, out of all the cryptids we've looked at, I would have to say the Wendigo is probably the closest one out of all the descriptions to potentially be a culprit. What do you guys think?
And I would absolutely agree as far as cryptids go, but I certainly don't want to put a heavy lean on it.
No, I'm just looking at the possibilities of other things that we haven't looked at. And Wendigo is not one that I don't think a whole lot of people have looked at. I don't think Bigfoot's taken people.
No. Bigfoot, when they find them, especially if it's a kid, they tend to bring them back.
Yeah, not even the 3-year-old, but there's been multiple cases where kids get lost from the base camp, family camp, and Bigfoot brings them home.
Yeah.
Back to camp.
Well, I can't say that all the Bigfoot are good. I mean, maybe there's a lot of them that are, but I can imagine one having a bad attitude, taking people.
Oh, certainly. You know, it is technically possible.
Just like humans.
But the thing is, I think Bigfoot overall is a lot calmer. What's the other race of Bigfoot that is off-world, Keith?
It's in the water.
Yeah, now that one. If you look at the YouTube videos, there's actually a YouTube video out there that goes into 3 different cases of an aggressive Bigfoot. And the last story was from a psychiatrist who didn't believe in Bigfoot, and when he encountered him, it changed his whole psychiatric mind. And in that one, it was very aggressive. It had every intention of harming him and his family. And when he started doing his research on it, that was a very interesting story in that orbs came down out of the sky, and they were surrounded by Wahara. And, you know, this is the race. They look very similar to Bigfoot. They have the brown fur. They're 7 to 10 foot tall. Actually, the Wahara are shorter, I believe, aren't they, Keith?
Yeah, they're usually, I mean, you do once in a while get to the 7-foot mark, but most of them are more closely to the 5 to 6.
Right. And these ones actually come from off-world. They're not Bigfoot. They look similar, but they're aggressive.
Yeah, and unlike Bigfoot, which you would have to corner to get to be aggressive, these guys, all you gotta do, they're more akin to a Wolverine's attitude. You're in the neighborhood, we're allowed to eat you.
And
could it simply be that the people that run across the aggressive Bigfoot don't get to come back and report that they saw an aggressive Bigfoot?
Technically, the answer, because of the way you phrased it, technically the answer is right. Technically could be. Just quite frankly, it doesn't add up.
Yeah. So you got Wendigo. I firmly believe in the portal theory.
Well, reported cases of people showing up in another country with in another continent, total amnesia, not knowing who they are.
Yeah. And again, the cases where the people were lucky enough to be found alive, describe a monster, and these are usually the children. Describe the monster. The adults are just dazed, confused, and have no idea how long they've been gone, why they were gone, or where they went. So we're actually coming down to the end of the show. It was a great show. I think we got a lot of ground covered. It was fun because it was different. Again, I don't hear a whole lot of shows talking about Wendigo, Skinwalker, and some of the other creatures that we've covered, which is why I like to be different. So next week we have our roundtable, and we're going to cover. Everyone's going to bring 3 questions on current events, paranormal related, supernatural related, or conspiracy related. So, Dave, where can we find Spaced Out Radio?
Everything can be found at spacedoutradio.com, our website, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Outstanding.
Thanks,
and
buddy.
You can also touch Dave's great hair at Paracon, September 28th.
Yes.
And
he comes at him with a razor.
And don't forget, August 11th, come and have breakfast with Forest Moon Paranormal at our pancake feed. At the
bacon flavored pancakes.
Does that mean I get to ask you to save them?
Say again?
I said, does that mean I get to ask you to save them? Because there's no way I'll be there.
I know it. And what time are we doing that? 8 o'clock in the morning to 2 p.m., is it not?
Yeah. I'll be there at 8-ish.
Yep. And that's going to be at the Samish Grange on Highway 9 north of Cedar Woolley. Yeah, it'd be kind of hard to go east on Highway 9, but anyway.
Not really.
No?
No.
I think
you can go east.
Through a farmer's field, maybe.
That's all right.
Oh, so Cole, where can we find Statement of Sound DJ services?
You can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/SOSDJPro.
Outstanding. And Keith, where can we find your books and your YouTube videos?
Well, you can actually find the books on my Facebook page, on the Ilderbach Facebook page. It's tied right to Inner Voice Enterprises. Right. And also on YouTube, it's Ronald Keith Andrews. You can find me on Twitter at the same place. Okay. And of course, obviously right through here, I presume you guys will patch me through.
Absolutely.
Of course. And
now that, if you really want to find out, I'm planning on being at the Paracon as well. So,
of course, you're gonna have a book table.
That'd be the idea.
But you see, that's if they want to get your book now and not wait till September.
Well, yeah, I just got an offer from somebody. Next week, it looks like I might be able to even get to the PDF side of it instead of just the novel side.
Oh, rock on!
Oh, that's awesome.
I just found a friend of mine has actually offered to transfer the thing.
All right. And so tomorrow we have a team meeting, and next week we'll probably have a whole lot more information to put out because we're talking about a whole lot of hot topics tomorrow at our team meeting. So I want to thank our crew, Cole Wegleitner, our technical analyst, Chris and Brent Dodge, who were here, but they dropped, and I think they went to sleep. From the FMP Extended Care National Team, Don Davidson, our California consultant, our Keith Andrews, our alien race specialist, Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, Jamie Justice, our Upriver historical consultant and neighbor of FMP headquarters, and Joe Algeyer, our resident geologist. So stay tuned next week, July 27th, for our July Roundtables. We gather some friends for questions on the hot topics of the time. Thank you again for listening to S4. Keep your eyes to the skies. Remember, it's you, our listeners, that give us a reason to produce S4. Stay safe out there, and see you next week.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at